Of the same, the House begins debate on Republican plans to slash $100 billion in spending for the rest of this fiscal year. The president threatening to veto those measures. Measures that Republican Senator Mike Crapo of Idaho says are desperately needed to counter the White House's big government budget. Senator Crapo is a member of the President's Fiscal Commission and voted for the recommendations that we just talked about. He joins us now. Senator, we've talked about fiscal 2012 enough. Let's talk about the remainder of fiscal 2011. Are we going to get through this fiscal year without a government shutdown?
Well, I believe we've got to get through the fiscal year without a government shutdown, but we certainly cannot continue business as usual, just kicking the can down the road, as we say, and not getting reform. And so I think you will have a showdown over the deep kinds of reductions in spending that the House is going to ask for and which we in the Senate are going to have to go along with if we're going to get serious about protecting this country.
When we talk about cuts to spending, whether it is on a state or a federal level, inevitably you will hear the line, essential social services, right? I mean, that's what we hear. In other words, the threat of if you make cuts, somebody is not going to have something that they need. How do we get around that argument to make the deep cuts that are difficult but necessary?
Well, undoubtedly, as we saw when we put out the Fiscal Commission's plan in December, everybody who has a special part of the government that they want to see protected will come out and start attacking the plan. But Americans are starting to get it increasingly. And the reality is this: if we do nothing, if we continue to simply try to spend ourselves through this, then we are going to see an economic collapse that will be far more difficult and far more damaging to every American in every walk of life than any kind of reductions in spending or fiscal restraint that we're debating here on the Hill.
What do we have to do to avoid a shutdown of the government? Because even the Republicans don't agree on everything.
Well, we need to have very strong steps in this year's budget to reduce spending. I agree with the $100 billion target, but we've got to make major steps. And then we've got to get engaged in the kind of planning for the future that will help us get on a path for fiscal responsibility. And that involves the kind of things that the president literally abandoned in the budget that he revealed yesterday. His budget will have us increase our debt over the next 10 years from $9 trillion to $18 trillion. That's the debt owed to the public. Our gross debt, including all of our debt, will increase from $13 trillion to $26 trillion. And we cannot continue to try to spend ourselves through this. And what we've got to do is get the support of the American public to say, we get it, Congress must get it, and frankly, the president must get it, and we've got to have strong, serious, bold steps put into place now.
If you want to sell spending, you call it investment, right? I tried to sell the fact that I needed a new car. I called it an investment in transportation. Didn't work with my wife either. But there is some forms of government spending, Senator, are there not, that are good? I mean, we have a national highway system. We have an energy grid, albeit aged energy grid. What types of government spending, though, do you support? Are there good kinds of spending?
Well, certainly we need to have a national defense. Our national highway system is another example, as you have indicated. Energy policy requires us to do the right things that require expenditures in significant contexts. But remember, we're not talking about eliminating all federal spending. We're talking about not spending more than we bring in. The president is proposing a budget that will spend $3.7 trillion. We simply need to get more fiscally responsible and start paring back everywhere. Nothing can be sacred in the budget. We must deal with every part of the budget, and everything must be on the table.
Senator Crapo, thank you very much for your time tonight, sir.
Thank you.
All right. With hundreds of billions of dollars in new taxes in that fiscal 2012 budget, the White House is somewhat revisiting